Wait, do you have access to the Google form?
Google form. I send you what? I send.
All right. It looks like a lot of people are here already, so we'll just get started with the information. So hi everyone, I'm Jonathan. I am the junior class treasurer, and today we're working with Elite, and they're going to be giving you guys some information on how the latest changes to the testing situation will impact college admissions. We have a form for questions that you guys can fill out that you guys could have filled out before the seminar. But since we're already in the seminar now, if you have questions, just directly message. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this seminar. Thank you all for coming.
All right. Hello, everybody. So just want to send you my greetings to everyone out there, Mission San Jose students and parents. I don't think I see lots of the camera that's on, but I'm going to assume that behind those names and boxes, there are people, and you guys are cozying up nice and comfortable at home. And I just want to thank you for inviting me to be able to speak and give you guys the latest 411 on all the what's happening in the standardized testing and how it's impacting the college admissions. So I have a pretty good presentation slide prepared for you guys.
We'll also be explaining how to play all of these games. So if you're unsure of what soulmate or mafia is, then don't worry.
Danish, mute yourself.
Yeah, so definitely if you guys can mute your mics and if you can, save your questions instead of like speaking up on the mic, put it on the chat box and I will do my best to get to your questions eventually. I have already read through all the questions that was sent through the Google Forms, and I have incorporated those questions into my presentation today. And I'm also going to do a extra, a Q&A at the end. So we'll then tackle some of the new questions that you guys might have after this the sharing. Okay. So without further ado, let's just get started. All right, so a little bit about myself. My name is Walter, and I'm with Elite Prep of Fremont, and I'm the director here. And I also work here as a college admissions counselor. I've been with Elite for 17 years, so it's been a long, long time. And I was very fortunate enough to be able to work with many students from Fremont area and also beyond Fremont. So I've been able to just, accrue a lot of experience and knowledge. And I'm really excited to share some of this information with you guys today. All right, so let's talk about 2020 and 2021. I thought this is a kind of a funny picture. You guys know this is going to be a memorable year that you can one day talk to your own kids and your own grandkids about. So it was a very crazy year, but let's just kind of focus on what happened with the testing situation with the college admissions. So as we go back to the spring of 2020, we know that COVID-19 forced all the schools to go online. And I think we all kind of remember that, kind of like 9/11. If you've been around since 9/11, you remember what happened. And UC announced a 5-year plan for the SAT, ACT requirements around that time, spring. And they actually made a decision in the summertime, actually early summer. And that 5-year plan was that the current seniors and current juniors, if they were to apply to college, the UCs will have students submit their scores optionally. And for the current sophomores and freshman students, they will not be looking at their score, so they'll be blind to your score. And the current 8th graders, they will leave that up in the air as an optional, like they might actually come up with their own test. They might use another test. So that was the plan that was made. And then we all kind of know that as SAT, ACT sites were canceled, the test administration sites were canceled because the pandemic got worsened and it got really dangerous. So students who signed up for the test, some of them found out last minute on the day of, they couldn't take the test. So what happened after that is, even though originally UC they were to accept the scores optionally, they decided to go blind for the current senior class. So I think the current seniors are still awaiting results from UC admissions. But when they sent in their application by the end of November, they did not have to send their SE score at all. In fact, they said that they were blind to it. But the interesting thing was there was a section on the application where you can still submit it. But they were not supposed to look at the score and not take that into consideration when they were evaluating you. And then the other colleges made the decision on whether to go optional or test blind. Most of the schools that are selective, they decide to go with test optional. And some of the schools, as we know, UC, CSUs, and I know like Caltech, they decided to go blind. At least they said we're going to have a moratorium on SAT, ACTs for the next 2 years. And then the College Board very recently decided to drop the SAT subject test and also the SAT essays. So I'm going to talk more in depth about that as we go in here. Okay, so let's talk about the subject tests first and foremost. Some of you guys might not know which one the subject test is. Subject test is the test that's provided by the College Board, the same company that makes the SAT, the AP test, and PSAT. And it's a 1-hour long test that tests students on specific subjects, school subjects, foreign language subjects, as well as, like world history and history, math level 2, and all the sciences. And they decided to discontinue it. And the question I know that I'm hearing a lot is, why are they doing that? Like, why did they decide to discontinue when the current seniors, when they applied, they were able to submit, they're able to submit their scores. There was an option there. So their official word is that they're reducing demands on students, and the expanded reach of AP and the widespread availability for the low-income students and students of color means that the subject tests are no longer necessary. So I think they use this language. They pulled out the color language, the race card, saying that this is not really fair for certain groups of students. So, and I think another part of it is that it is very expensive and costly to make these tests. Just imagine creating subject tests for every single month throughout the year, except the month of March, I believe. It takes a lot of research and development. And because there were some overlapping for subject tests with the AP test, and I think that a lot of the people in our industry kind of saw this coming. And so, yeah, they decided to drop the subject test completely. And the last two subject tests actually that will be administered will be this May and June, but it will only be available for the international students. And if you have already signed up for the test, they will be providing you with a full refund. Okay. Normally, College Board will when they're not good about refunds, but this time I think they're being really flexible because they know that it was completely on their part to pull the rug under on students. So they're gonna give you guys full refund on this. And another question that I got was, if I have already taken these SAT subject tests and received an 800, for instance, you've taken, let's just say, math level 2 back in, like last year before the COVID happened, because you're advanced in math, because the math level 2 has a lot of like pre-calculus in it, and you took pre-calculus as a freshman, then can you still report your scores to colleges? My guess is that it will be really depending on which college you're applying to. But if you look at how the scores were reported this year, there will be an option for you to at least submit the score because you've already taken it. But every college will have a different like regulation and how they're going to see the score. But I would imagine most colleges, if you have already taken the test early before the College Board canceled this test, you should be able to submit the score as an optional score. How does this impact valuation of other tests like SAT, ACT? And I wanted to highlight AP scores. And I did mention earlier that the AP test and subject test, they do share a lot of overlap. And if, for instance, if you're taking, AP chemistry and you're preparing for the AP chemistry test, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's on the AP chemistry test that's going to be on the SAT subject test. Same goes for biology and physics and world history, so on and so forth. So, because AP test is going to be more comprehensive, it's much longer. It's not 1 hour like the subject test. You need to show much higher level of subject mastery to do well in AP test. So colleges have no problem, shouldn't have any problem being able to look at your AP scores and get a gauge of how well you understood and had subject mastery. So what that means is the weight on the AP scores will go up significantly because the subject test is out of the equation. And for schools that actually do look at, like, for instance, SAT, ACT test optionally, and they would definitely look at your math score, which has geometry and algebra 2, to see how well you understood that subject. So I think, and also for the ACT, there's a science component too, and there's a math component. So I think what happens is, because subject test is out of the picture, AP score for certainly will definitely be more important going forward. How will this affect college admissions? So I will be talking more in depth about this, but subject test, taking out the subject test will have some impact, but all these things happening together, I think you have to kind of understand the big picture, the macro picture, and you will get a much better understanding what is the better way to prepare yourself as you for the college admissions. So I'm going to go much more in detail into that later in this presentation. So let's talk about the SAT and ACT. Why is College Board getting rid of the SAT essay number 1? Because that's the most recent news that was publicized along with the subject test. Now, we were not surprised by this at all. In fact, all of the elite, I believe, we took out the SAT essay component out of our classes starting last summer, because we got consistent information from all different colleges saying that they're not really incorporating the SAT essay in their admissions evaluations. So I think it was just a matter of time this is going to happen. And they wanted to see if there's other ways to test students in their writing skills, to project how well they're going to do in the writing department when they go to college. So, and there wasn't, the SAT essay wasn't the best solution for it. Which colleges are going test blind versus test optional? So I want to just explain. Test blind means the colleges will not want to look at your score, so you shouldn't be able to send your scores. Test optional means if you have the scores, you can send them. If you have the scores but you're not happy with your score, you can also not send them the score. So that's the difference. All the UCs and CSUs, Caltech and Washington State, schools like that, It's not a huge list. They are test blind. And most of the selective colleges are still test optional. So that's the way it is. And I do have a link here that you can definitely Google a lot of this stuff. And you can actually go onto each individual school website, and they'll give you detailed information on that. But there's some websites like FairTest that you can look at just to make sure, and then go to the individual college sites to just confirm this information. Okay. When colleges say it's optional, does it really mean optional? This is kind of like one of the funny questions that I got on the question on the questionnaire. And would it hurt my chances if I don't submit my score? So when colleges say it's optional, yeah, they actually do mean it's optional. You can send it or not send it. But also, you have to understand that if you were to apply to certain programs, let's just say you're a student applying to UC Berkeley, and you are going for the engineering major or EECS major, the electrical engineering computer science major. And if you are taking an AP calculus class, AB or BC, and you don't take the test, or you get a score that is really kind of embarrassingly low, so you don't send it, I think it's going to raise some red flags. They're going to be wondering why you took the class and don't have a score corresponding to that class. So even though I think officially they're not supposed to use these optional scores against you, when they look at you holistically, I think some of the omittance of information could not help you, which in turn is basically it could hurt you. So, I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible. I think when colleges say it's optional, my recommendation for our students is that, yeah, you really should do it. And also when they say your interview, for some of the private schools, it's optional interview, I would recommend most of my students to definitely accept the invitation for the interview, prepare as well as they can, and then do the interview. Unless some students who I don't think would be able to present themselves the best way, and if they're really antisocial, shy, and awkward type, and they really don't even want to even prepare for interviews, in those rare circumstances, maybe they can refuse the option to do the interview. But in general, when they ask you to do optional things, you really should do it, especially if you're trying to get into a selective college. And if some of these optional standards are gonna actually enhance your profile. So I think that's the key. If the optional information will enhance your profile, you really should do it. And same thing for if you're submitting a music portfolio or art portfolio, and you're gonna go into a field that relates to that, you really should do it. Even if they say optional, you really should be doing that. And I have a very funny interesting thing, when you are an NFL combine, there's optional practices. And I know for a fact that the players that don't show up to these optional training camps, even though it's optional, they're going to be hated by other teammates, and even coaches going to be wondering about their work ethic and their commitment to the team. So at the end of the day, you really should do everything that is optional if you can. Why are SAT, ACTs being de-emphasized for UCs and CSUs, but they still look at AP scores and subject tests for current seniors? So I don't want to confuse you guys with that parentheses, but that's a really good question. And that is, I already mentioned this a little bit, but UCs, they're really trying to go for diversity. And they have felt that over the years, if you look at the demographics of UCs, I think, it's becoming like UCA, University of California of Asians. And I know some people are like, what? But it's actually true. And they're trying to make it more diverse, meaning not more Asians, but probably making more diverse with other ethnicities of people. And I think one of the things that they realize is that, some population of students, they have the edge on, things like tests, test prep, be able to prepare for tests and be able to afford programs, and also just having the background that supports them doing well in certain specific tests. So they decided to take the SAT, ACT out of the equation. And subject tests is another component where students have to pay for the test and prepare for the test and buy books, even if you're not taking classes. All those are extra layers of hurdles that these maybe more disenfranchised and marginalized students have to jump across. So they're taking those things out of the equation because they want to create more of a fair playing field. I have a lot more opinion on this matter, but I'm gonna just kind of wrap it up there. So we're gonna. The next question was: in which cases should I not take the SAT ACTs? So that's a legitimate question too, especially when they say it's optional. I would say for students that have no plans to applying for these colleges that are you're doing it optionally, then you certainly do not have to take these SAT and ACTs. I mean, it would be kind of like a waste of time for you. But if there's a chance that you might, I think you should definitely look into it. But what about if you are going to apply for these optional schools, but your starting score is extremely low? And, we've had a lot of, over the years, a lot of admission standardization students come in to take our diagnostic test. And I know that on average, mission standardization students will typically start at a higher level than students from other school districts or even students from other parts of Fremont. But if there's a student that came here with a score that is below, let's just say, I'm going to go really extreme, like below 900 or below 1,000, but their their GPA is really high, and they're really busy doing other stuff, then is it really worth their while to, climb their way up from 850 to 1150 or whatever the case may be to raise their score? So I think it's really case by case. This is where a really great, a seasoned counselor could provide a really good recommendation what the individual students should do. All right, so this is the latest news from the UC Regents meeting that happened only a couple of weeks ago. And here's the meeting notes. And I'm pretty sure you guys don't want to go over all these meeting notes with me. So one of my colleague, he did on behalf of all you guys, read through all this and gave you a synopsis on what happened at this recent meeting. And basically, UC will be test blind through 2024. So even though, remember, the 5-year plan where the first 2 years is going to be optional, they're going to continue doing blind until the current freshman class, okay? They'll be blind to it. SAT, ACTs will not be used in the UC admissions, or they have no plans to do that. UC is considering using a modified version of the SBAC. And SBAC is, I'll show you guys, so there's a smarter balance test. This is not final decision, but they're going to take a pre-existing test and modify them and make it into a UC admissions test. So that is in the works, or they're looking into it. And that's going to probably affect the freshman class of 2025. So I believe that's going to be, if I do my math correctly, the 8th graders, the current 8th graders. So I think you'll realize here that UC will not be developing their own standardized admissions test, which they thought they would at one point when the then President Janet Napolitano was coming up with this 5-year plan. And a lot of us knew that that's going to be a very expensive venture. So we were very skeptical whether that's going to happen. So sure enough, most likely they're going to either not have any test, or they will use a pre-existing test like the SBAC and make it their own. Okay, we had a lot of also questions regarding the AP test. And I'm not sure if any of the admission San Jose teachers are in the Zoom audience right now. But and I'm sure that they've been well up to date, updated on what's going on through College Board. So this is a slide deck that I got from the presentation they did for the counselors. So I have a few pages I want you guys to take a look at. So exams for 2021, this coming spring, will cover the full scope of the course and skills. So it's going to be the whole entirety of the material. And remember, this is a contentious question because some of the classes, their pace is really behind. So I've heard that some of the classes have only covered quarter of the material in the first semester rather than half the material. So they're really behind in the second semester. So colleges and universities expect exam scores to reflect the full scope of the AP coursework. That's the reason. There is no consensus amongst the colleges that on AP content that could be cut without jeopardizing the college credit. AP teachers often teach content in different text sequences, making a particular content cuts unfair to some. I'm not sure if that's a good reason. When we surveyed AP teachers, the majority urged us to stick with the full exam. And I'm sure some of the teachers will be like, I never told you guys that. What teachers were you talking to? But this is what they came up with. And what will the format be then? The supporting teachers and students. So the new course pacing guides. So they're gonna provide some live online review sessions, especially for those who are behind, like I said, like 25% by January. So if you can utilize the resource through the AP daily videos and use that as a supplement to what you're learning at school, they're saying that by May, hopefully by May, that you're gonna be you'll be caught up, and the teacher should be able to incorporate all these things into their program. So that's what's happening right now. So the live online review sessions are available starting from April 19th. That's gonna be way later down the line. So we're looking at only a couple weeks before the AP test. So what they are gonna be providing that for you guys. And then another thing they mentioned is that the regularly AP schedule administration will be full length paper and pencil exam. So I want to actually flip to the next here. I think this is a little bit easier to understand. So there will be 3 ways they will be administering the test, and every school will be different. And I didn't get a chance to speak to the Mission San Jose counselors and administrators there, but so one option would be that they will administer the test just like it's been before COVID, like the full length paper and pencil exam. That will be the first column on the left side here. And the middle column here, they will do a hybrid. They will allow students to do part of it on paper pencil and the other part be done more digitally. And it could be taken at school or at home. And the other option would be doing everything in a digital format, whether it's taken at school or at home. So it looks like these 3 things will be available to them, to you guys. And it depends on which school. So I would definitely be in touch with your school. I'm sure they're going to be making a big announcement about it. And they will also be providing some makeup exams in June, even though all the AP test normally is done in May. So that's another interesting that's happening here. So more things about the AP test. Is it fair for College Board? And I thought this was a really great question from another student here. Is it fair for a College Board to return to its original form of 3-hour AP exam when there has been huge learning limitations due to online distance learning? So it seems like a person who's a little bit sour about what's happening right now. To answer this, I mean, is life fair? I think instead of saying whether it's fair or not fair, the best thing you can do is to adapt and embrace, and just make sure you prepare as best as you can. So I do understand that some of you guys, and I don't want to put the blame on the teachers or the Zoom or limitations about distance learning, but you're gonna have to make the best of every situation. So instead of rejecting this notion and being bitter about it, I think you should just embrace it. How does it look to take the AP class but not the exam? So this would be example for a student that is taking a class, kind of struggling a lot with it, or just not a big fan of the subject, and decides not to take the test because they're really struggling with the subject matter and don't really feel like studying for it. Would it look bad? And to answer that question, I think it is a red flag if you're taking a class and there's no corresponding score. So I do recommend students to take the AP test. And if you did get a less than ideal grades in your class, then your AP test will be an opportunity for you to do well on them and to kind of redeem yourself, so to speak. So if you got like a C in an AP class, and if you get a 4 or 5, I think at least it shows colleges that you have understood the subject matter or even mastered the subject. So I don't think you should see it as a opportunity for you to back out, but really to partake and do the best you can. And also, if you do end up getting a score, there is a way for you to not submit your score. I don't recommend that, but there is a way to do it. So, but you really should. How does it look to self-study for an AP exam and get a 5? So that means this student is kind of like the opposite of the previous student, where you are, taking a subject like, I don't know, like AP psychology or statistics or computer science. I think I've only seen a couple students that self-study for AP physics without taking a class, but let's just say they pick a subject and then they take the test and get a 5. I think it does look good, but only problem is schools like Mission San Jose, they have changed a lot of their regulations. They're not allowing students to take AP test, sign up for the AP test at school if you are not in the class at school. So in the years past, they used to allow that, but that's all changed now. So it's going to be really tough. But I think definitely, if you're able to do it, you should do it. But moreover, I personally think that if you're going to self-study for AP exam and get a 5, might as well sign up for a class, even if it's not offered at your school or you're not able to fit into your schedule. Take it somewhere else that is accredited, get a full A grade, and it's a weighted class, get the boost in your GPA and get the 5. So you actually benefit from both scenarios. So I think that's a best scenario if you ask me. Should I report my scores even if they're 3 or below? This is case by case again. If you have like a 1 or 2, and I know that the admissions officers, they're trained and told that they shouldn't use optional test scores against students. But if a student is reporting a 2 on the AP test and they're trying to get into their impacted major, like an engineering program, and they're getting 2 on the calculus test or physics, I think it would be, if not a red flag, it would be at least an orange flag or a yellow flag to sort of speak. So I think you should definitely talk to a seasoned counselor, and then they'll probably best tell you what to do. So I'm going to leave it there, right there. Okay. With the discontinuation of SAT subject tests and SAT, ACTs being the test, SAT, ACTs being test optional or blind, AP scores will become more increasingly important. I think you guys will all agree after listening to the last, looking at the last few slides, it's pretty obvious that, when you take away certain other things is going to become more important because they have less information to look at. So the little information they have, it's going to be weighed more, which totally makes sense. All right, so this is kind of I'm not going to spend too much time looking at this stuff, but this AP Scholar Award, some students will try to get an award through the College Board. If you take 3 or more by the end of 11th grade and you get a 3 or higher average score, you get an AP Scholar. And I know some students are like, well, that's not a big deal. But for other students, it is a huge deal, especially if you come from schools that don't offer too many AP classes or schools that don't let you take too many AP classes. And if you take 4 and you average 3.25, then you get an AP Scholar with honors. If you take 5 and you average 3.5 in all 5 scores, you get AP Scholar with distinction. There used to be a national AP Scholar Award for people that take an 8, but interestingly enough, they took this out of the equation starting this year. And only thing that I can think of is maybe they don't want to encourage students to go above and beyond their means to take too many AP tests and get all stressed out and have emotional breakdowns. So I think they're trying to safeguard students. I mean, I had one student, this is a true story. I had one student that took 18 AP tests by the end of junior year, got 5s on every single one, and eventually ended up taking 26 AP tests by senior year and won the state AP Scholar Award in the state of California. But, and this student was able to do it because this person is really advanced and, should I say, had almost like a photographic memory. But I think instead of saying, well, I'm going to try to get, AP Scholar with distinction, I think you guys should always try to take the load of APs in terms of class that you can handle and still be able to get good grades without stressing yourselves out too much. Let's talk about PSAT and this National Merit Scholarship qualification test. So how do I qualify for National Merit Scholarship? Now, if you are familiar, growing up in Fremont for a long time, you would know that most of your parents, not all parents, there are usually professionals maybe that work in finance or they work in engineering department or in programming, they're programmers. So a lot of the parents in this area, especially Mission San Jose, I think parents are making 6-figure plus salary. So they don't really qualify for need-based scholarships. So merit-based scholarships are very few opportunities students can take advantage of to maybe get some money for college tuition. So over the years, students have really tried their best to qualify for national merit by doing really well on the PSAT test. And the test score that you had to get was based on which state you're from. So if you're from California, the raw score had to be something along the lines of like 222 or 223. I think that's the score of like 1490 to 1500 out of 1520. I know that's almost a near perfect score, but it was pretty tough to get to the qualification stage. And then there is a few more stages for you to get there. to get the money. How does PSAT affect college admissions? Zero. It makes no impact on your college admissions. If you got the worst PSAT score in the world, or you just skip the PSAT test, it's usually not part of the college application information unless you decided to submit the information that you will qualify for national merit and you made it to maybe like semifinalists. But it does not affect it. And really, they don't need to see your PSAT score, because a lot of the colleges, especially those who are looking at your score optionally, they'll look at your SAT scores. Some high schools have canceled or postponed the 2020 this past year October PSAT to January, and I think you guys already know this. This is what happened, and I've heard through the grapevine, 59 Mission San Jose students. I meant to say Mission San Jose. I don't know what MJ is, but it's Mission San Jose high school students. Current seniors have just qualified for National Merit finalist, so that's a pretty amazing feat, because there's like, I think there's 1.5 million students take it, and 15,000 students will be finalists. So that's a very small fraction of the 1.5 million. And out of those students, about 7,000 to 8,000 students will become National Merit Scholars. And they have like just National Merit Scholarship passed out from the National Merit Foundation. You'll get about $2,500. There's also money that you can get through corporate sponsored scholarship through National Merit Scholars qualification, and also college sponsored. And some of the colleges like USC has been pretty generous for some of the students by providing as much as half the tuition, which I believe is going to be about $25K, which is a lot of money if you think about it. So yeah, there's some ways for students could use their PSAT test to qualify for National Merit. You can also use SAT and ACT scores to qualify for National Merit as well. And you can definitely do some research on that. I wanted to show this graph to show kind of like the roadmap, how students will take the test. And then like I mentioned, 1.5 million all the way dwindle it down to finalist, about 15,000. And then eventually it's going to be about 8,200. And that was for the class of 2021. Okay. And then this is the information about how you can use alternate ways to qualify. And so, such as your SAT score. So they're going to look at your total of 1,600, and there's two sections, right? There's the math section, and then there's the EBRU section, evidence-based reading and writing section. And then each of the raw score, the full raw score is 40, but they will give you up to a maximum of 38. So if you got score, I would say in the 15 plus range, that you would most likely qualify for the National Merit Scholarship qualification, at least the beginning stage. And then you will probably have to go through several more layers to become finalists, like some of the 59 Mission San Jose students were able to do. So all this information is available to you online, and there is a downloadable form. I want to click on this really quick so that you guys can take a look at it. There is a downloadable form that you need to fill out, and you need to submit this by April 1st. So if you are a junior and you didn't get a chance to take the PSAT for whatever reason, and you did well on the SAT test, I would definitely go through this link and make sure you guys try to get yourself qualified. Okay. All right, so I wanted to talk about what's happening with the whole college admissions. And I'm sure you probably, know some seniors. I know there's a lot more interaction if there's actually school where you attend physically and you run into people that's on campus. But, for those who also have siblings that are seniors, it's been a really crazy year, not just because of COVID, but, all the changes that's happened with the standards. So the college admissions was also really crazy. It was a really abnormal year. So there were huge changes in the early application with the early action and early decision numbers. There's also changes in the UC application numbers, huge changes in the CSU, California State Universities, like San Jose State and Cal Poly. How does it impact early action? Extracurricular activities, and also letters of recommendation. Sorry, I didn't recognize my own acronym. So how does this impact your other components of your admissions, which is your extracurricular and letters of rec? So I want to talk to you guys about that. So first and foremost, and I want to definitely give this credit to my fellow colleague, Henry, who put some of these slides for me. Here is a big change that happened. If you look at this, this is the increase of early action applications. So if you look at MIT, they received 62%. I know this is not the best quality graph, but this is accurate information. So 62% increase of early action application from last year versus this year current seniors. Harvard, they received 57% higher number, Columbia 49, and down the line, pretty much across the board, even schools like Virginia and Virginia Tech, they all got way more early applications in this year. So Harvard got their admission rate in the previous year was 13.9, 14%. But then this year it dropped to 7.4, and the overall admission, it goes down to 5% or a little bit under 5%. So it really did, I think it was a really, really tough year for students. It was significantly tougher than the previous year. 350 students deferred this past year. So we're talking about the current freshman students in college. They decided to take a gap year, which means taking a full year off to kind of just wait out the whole COVID situation. Because if you're a senior in, if you're a freshman in college, I know actually a freshman in college who's a current freshman at Harvard, and I saw him recently at this gathering, and I was like, "What are you doing over here?" And it's not even spring break or winter break. Like, why are you here? It's like, oh, pretty much everybody's back at home taking online classes. And I said, I asked him, "Are you paying full tuition?" And he goes, "Yes, we are." And I'm like, wow. So this is the reason why a lot of people are taking a gap year. But some of the students are like, I'm not going to take an extra year to finish college. I'm going to just get through it. I don't care. I mean, I would prefer a real in-person class, but it is what it is. But imagine if the 350 students do return next year, I would say that would be the space that will be taken for next year's class, right? So I would say next year is going to be even that much harder than this year, because there will be all these new returning gap year students who are starting their first year as a freshman. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that you should think about. And that 350 students is about 20% of the freshman class for Harvard. And so here's all the numbers for the for the IVs. Penn reported 30% of their ED applicants chose not to include test scores. That's really interesting. And those who got admitted, 24%. So a quarter of them did not submit their test scores. 75% of the students who got admitted, they submitted their scores, but a quarter of them did not do that. So that's very interesting. What's happening there. So here's the other numbers. Now, the big thing is the MIT, the 62% along with Harvard. That's a really crazy jump there. For the UCs and CSUs and other colleges. So UC applications went up a lot, 15%. And, I'm going to go through all of this, and then I'll show you, like over here, if you look at 2020, all of the UC application, if you tally it all up, there's 172,000 applications versus 203,000 applications. So UCLA is a big change there. 108,000 applications to 139, almost 140,000 applications. They actually went down from 2019 to 2020, and then they just had this huge jump. And you can only imagine why that happened is because of the fact that UCs did not want to look at your scores, right? They're blind to the scores. So a lot of the students would normally not qualify. Now they qualify, so they're able to apply. And remember what I said earlier, that they're trying to create more diversity. The students that weren't able to even sniff some of the UCs, now they're able to, more than sniff, they can be eligible and be able to gain admission. So you can do the math and see which students, their spots will be taken away so that these new students can take their spots. So you can use your imagination, what's happening there. Overall, CSU applications went down, interestingly enough, but Cal Poly SLO, which is San Luis Obispo, went up by 4%, and schools like Cal State Dominguez Hills went down by 17%. This is a school you're probably not familiar with. It's in SoCal. I'm sure some of the people down there won't maybe know, like Chico State, but so there's a school down there where there's a lot of like immigrants, students from different ethnic backgrounds. They do apply to Dominguez Hills. So those schools got much less applications, whereas the upper echelon CSUs like Cal Poly, they got more applications than previous year. Interesting. Selected private and large public colleges increased by 12%. So, but if you look at the common application, numbers went down overall, a first time in 12 years. So common application, I believe they house about 150 applications, something along those lines. And then if you're looking at the selected college, we're looking at 20 to 30 top ranked schools there. Those schools got more applications, whereas the schools that are not in the top echelon, they received a little bit less than previous year. So, my only guess is that, at the end of the day, competitive colleges are getting harder to get into, and less competitive colleges are getting easier to get into. And what that means is there's going to be more of a polarization between the really high level colleges, competitive colleges, and the lower ranked colleges. And I don't know, maybe this is kind of like the separation of like the really wealthy and the poor, and the middle class being minimized or depreciating. I don't know what the case is, but all these new regulations and rules are actually making it more polarized in the admissions. UCs and CSUs are looking for more diversity. I mentioned this already. Emphasis is changing depending on your target. So what I meant to say by that is that everything that you do, it really depends on the student and depends on what major you're applying to. And if, let's just say you're trying to get into a science major, a BS major at UC San Diego, the emphasis for students who are trying to get into that type of major, it is considered an impacted major. So they will look at certain criteria. Are you taking the right classes? Have you taken the right AP test? And do you have the substantiating factors to prove to us that you can handle the academic rigors at these certain majors? So that really depends on where you're applying and what major you're applying for. For rising seniors, which means you're currently junior right now, I'm assuming most of you guys in the audience, it's going to be more the same next year. You look around right now, it doesn't seem like COVID's going to go away anytime soon. Doesn't seem like the school's going to come back in session for physical classes anytime soon. So there's going to be more of the same, except they are opening up the SAT centers way more than they did last year. So that's changed. And then also the fact that they're even considering the AP tests, the full-length AP test to be taken at school. So they're trying to use social distancing and just using time to prepare, spacing out students on campus. So those things are going to be a little bit different, but overall admissions process is going to be similar. And remember, I told you earlier that schools like Harvard or some other Ivies where there's going to be a lot of returning students from the gap year, it's only going to get even harder for some of you guys. So just something that you should be aware of. For rising juniors, so we're talking about current sophomores, we don't know. If I had to put my money on it, I say it's going to be harder. It's not going to get any easier. Let's just put it that way. Now, for college admissions, the ultimate goal is to stand out from the hundreds and thousands of other applicants applying to the same school. And some parents were like, it's not hundreds and thousands of students. Like you look at UCLA, 139,000 applications. So how do you stand out amongst the sea of people? So the best way to do it is you being the best version of yourself. And I know that some people are like, well, yeah, I will be the best version, but I also want to copy what the other guy's doing. Like maybe my older friend who just graduated and just got into school, I want to kind of copy them and follow their footsteps. You can do that to a certain degree, but really you want to be an original because you can only be the best version of yourself if you are actually yourself rather than being a mimic of somebody else. You have to understand that colleges, including a lot of UCs, they use holistic review. So they look at all different factors. That includes your GPA, strength of schedule, your standardized test scores, your ECA, recommendation letters. I'm sorry, for UCs, they don't, but like other private schools, they look at recommendation letters, personal statement essays. Some of the schools will even do interviews. And then they give you a 1 score. Okay, so what that means, if you lack in certain areas, you can make up and fill the gaps that you have in one area with another different area. For instance, if somebody has a really high GPA, but has a very mediocre extracurricular activities, it's kind of like nothing impressive, but they have other, like, they've taken like, many AP tests and the AP classes and got all A's in them, then overall the score could be just as high as somebody that has less GPA, less AP classes, but they have extraordinary extracurricular. So they look at you, try to look at you as a holistic person. But I did want to tackle a lot of these topics one by one with you guys, because in order for you guys to understand how all these changes happening with the SAT, subject test, AP tests, ACTs, how that affects your admissions, you have to understand how the college admissions really work. So starting with the GPA, you should know the difference between weighted, unweighted, UC capped and uncapped. So weighted, we know that it's the GPA that you get if you give yourself extra points for the honors and AP classes. Unweighted, you don't give yourself any weighted points. There's a UC cap GPA where you're only able to get extra points up to 4 classes or 8 semesters. So the uncapped GPA is really the same thing as the weighted GPA because there's no limit. And the reason why like UCs will use cap GPA is because they use it for eligibility purposes, also to compare students from different school districts that have different number of offering of AP and honors classes. And some schools, they make it actually really, they're very stringent about how many weighted class you can take. I think Mission is kind of on the side where they do make it harder for you to take weighted classes. Your school doesn't offer AP World stuff for sophomores. Very rarely you can take, US history over the summer or a math class just to get into the next level in math, like some other school districts. So because of that, I think, these things are set in place to compare students more fairly, because some students do come from school where there's almost no weighted classes or very few. But with that said, UC Berkeley and UCLA, they don't use cap GPA. Other than those 2 UCs, all the other UCs like Davis, Irvine, Santa Barbara, San Diego, Irvine, they do use cap GPA. Strength of schedule, or I call it academic load, is also really important. What type of classes, how difficult your classes are, how many total number of A through G classes you've taken or honors AP classes you've taken, and also do some of these classes relate to the major you're trying to get into, especially if you're trying to declare a impacted major, a technical major like engineering or some sciences or certain business programs, or like a combined medical programs. So that's really important. Your strength of schedule is important when it comes to those specific scenarios. What about the environment that you come from? Colleges definitely want to know what type of school you come from, what the school district's like. And also, this is the reason why they ask you questions like, are you the first generation college student in your household? And some students think that it's actually helpful for you to say, yeah, I'm the first, I'm actually the 3rd generation because my grandfather has PhD, but actually it doesn't help you if your grandfather, your mother, dad has like master's degree. They actually like to throw a bone towards students who are going to college as a 1st generation college student for the house. Okay, so they do try to understand the whole contextual environment. And they look at standardized tests. We talked about this already, SAT, ACT, APs. UCs, obviously, they don't look at the SAT, ACTs. Other schools do. And then ECAs, that includes clubs, sports, music, art, volunteering, summer programs, internships, competitions, etc. And I made this color blue because some of the colleges don't ask for this, like UCs don't ask for rec letters. They do ask for personal statement, or they call it insight questions, essays. But a lot of the private schools, selected private schools, they do require you to submit these information, like your teacher's recommendation letters and one from maybe outside of the school. And they will even conduct interviews. And interestingly enough, Stanford does not do interviews. A lot of people think they do, but they don't. Then how should I prepare for my GPA for college, right? So we know that COVID has forced a lot of the classes to go online and made some of the classes, some of these difficult classes, historically difficult classes, to become a little bit easier. And I'm pretty sure some of the teachers don't want to hear this. And I'm pretty sure some of the students don't want me to talking about this because they don't want teachers to be like, oh yeah, Walter, then I'm going to really make the class hard. But that is actually the case. I would say, and of all the students that I've seen quite a bit of students from your school and other schools, and I can see a lot more students getting A's in general than the previous years. Maybe it's also because of the fact that some of the tests you can do it at home. Some of the labs you can do it at home in the comforts of your home. The fact that you can actually type instead of write, that could also benefit certain students. but whatever the case may be, it has made it easier for you guys to do it. And also students that are taking online classes, they're also have gotten easier to get A's in. Like people that have taken classes through like BYU online or Apex online or like Mission College online. A lot of them were able to get A's in those classes even before COVID. This is also an opportunity for you to do well and create solid foundation in your applications moving forward. So I kind of talked about that already. Taking supplemental AP and dual enrollment college classes can greatly improve your academic profile. So I'm going to get into this more in detail later. There is a way for you guys to take extra accredited classes outside of Mission because you don't have room in your schedule or your school doesn't allow you to take it. And I met a student the other day that got a in Chem Honors last year. And couldn't get into AP Chem because they ran out of room. I mean, I just thought that it was really, really unfair and was basically forced to take anatomy and physiology. Things like that's happening right now. So I think you should, instead of just playing the victim card, you do whatever you can to work around that situation by taking accredited AP classes, get your grades, and also find opportunities for you to sign up for the test, if not at Mission, elsewhere. And I'll talk about that too. We are, as a company, we've actually had administration prepared for students to take the real AP test. Elita San Jose is actually hosting it. You can also take dual enrollment classes, and you can do all these things to really improve your academic profile. And you can see later on more and more how important this is going to be. So I want you guys to take a look at this later on. What about the academic load? How will colleges view my high school GPA since it's non-standardized? Meaning some high schools, some teachers and online classes are easier than others. So for instance, if you say, yeah, like, like my friends who live in South San Jose or East San Jose, I don't want to throw out some names, but I know some schools there where they get like straight A pluses, straight A's easily, taking multiple weighted classes. And a lot of these students, they take the SAT diagnostic test or PSAT, they're starting in the 800s. I'm not even lying about this. Like they're starting in 900s. And because even though they're getting A's and supposedly learning and absorbing, they're really not, because the environment that they come from, it's not conducive for effective learning. So, the students from Mission, they're wondering like, will colleges know that I'm actually going to a really tough school? And the answer is they do, because your school will provide general information about your school. And they do provide information like, what your school, how your school ranks in certain departments, how many APs and honors classes you offer at your school, what's the average number of classes that your students typically take at your school, what's the average SAT subject test scores, or I'm sorry, in this case, like AP scores from your school. So they do understand that. But the most important thing is, because that's the case, all the more you should take these AP tests to have a common denominator amongst all the students from different schools. And if you could excel in these common denominator tests like AP tests, you can show them that you have subject mastery. Despite the fact that you got 89.7 and your teacher didn't round it up and you got a 3.0 in that class, weighted 4.0, you got a 5 on the AP subject because you know the material and you just happen to attend a really tough school. So I would not fret too much about the fact that that you are going to a very tough school. And, like I've had many students, they tell me, Walter, and this is like a student from like UC Berkeley or UCLA or some other really tough school. They're like, I swear to God, Mission was so much harder than what I'm doing right now. It's like, it was way harder. It's not even close. And some people just kind of say that as a joke, but I had so many students with like straight face, like genuinely say and believe that. It goes to show how tough your school is. So I commend all you guys out there. Keep up the great work. I know you're not in it's not easy peasy what you're doing. Do the best you can. But the good thing is you're surrounded by other high performing students, hardworking students, and you are going to be that much better prepared for college level classes. If UC cap GPA is at 4 max courses or 8 semesters, should I still take more than 4 weighted classes? That's a legitimate question. Yes, because you really should, because you're not going to just apply to UCs. Other schools are not going to look at the cap GPA. It will be uncapped, unlimited. So if you take in 6 weighted classes in junior year and get all A's, your junior GPA is 5.0, not 4.5 or 4.4. So you should take as many as you can that you can handle. That is a big if, okay? If you can handle it. What good is taking 4, 5, 6 weighted classes when you're getting B's and C's and you're just getting killed? I also like to talk about the fact that some students will justify taking multiple weighted classes because they say, well, like I'm pretty good at math, so I can handle pre-calc honors. And I heard like this teacher's not that bad anymore because it's, like online learning. And like, this teacher is pretty nice in AP Chem. And this teacher is, yeah, I'm already good at chemistry. And this one, like I've always done honors English. I'm going to keep on doing that. So they justify every single class. Only thing is, they didn't think about how they have to manage all these classes all at the same time, especially when they have taken very little or no weighted class the year before. Like if you're sophomore going into junior year, you can be going from no weighted class to like 4 weighted class next year. So that's a big jump. So I want you guys to really put a lot of thought into it. This is where a good, seasoned, knowledgeable counselor can really give you a good, advice on how many really you should take based on precedence, based on your grades, based on your capability, and based on your own testimony too. Like, Walter, I know like my grades don't show it, but I am committed. I'm a changed man. I went through a major metamorphosis this semester. Like I know how to study much better now. I'm managing my time so much better. That might be the case, but you really have to maybe put some more thought into it instead of just getting that piece of paper when you get it from your school, just checking a whole bunch of boxes and then not really thinking about the repercussions. What's going to happen if you were to actually take multiple weighted classes next year? Can you actually handle it? Is there any benefit in taking honors and AP courses that are not weighted? So that's a really good question. So for instance, if you're a 9th grader and you're in honors English, or you're in algebra 2, geometry algebra 2, double Excel, which is honors, and you look at your, you go to doorways.ucup.edu and you realize these are not even weighted classes. In fact, I don't think the Chem Honors was a weighted class until this year. And that I'm not even 100%. I want to probably have one of the Mission San Jose counselors to confirm that information with me. So the question is, if you get a B in these honors classes, because you don't get an extra boost, the one extra point in your GPA, yes, it will hurt your GPA greatly. If you take in 3 honors classes and you get 3 Bs, you don't get a 4.0 weighted, you get a 3.5. So in that case, no, I don't think you should take honors classes, especially if you're going to get a B or C. But if you're able to get A's in honors classes, I have 2 good reasons why you should take them. Number one, you're going to be that much better prepared to take the next level honors and AP classes. If you're going from Chem honors and going to AP Chem, that transition will be much easier. Same thing for 10th grade honors English to 11th grade honors English. You guys know all the tough teachers at Mission San Jose. You will be that much better prepared. I'm not saying that if you come from a regular non-honors class, you cannot get an A, but that jump is much harder. It's a much bigger gap jump. So I think you should do it that way. Now, another thing is colleges, even though they might not calculate your GPA by giving you extra points in your non-weighted honors courses. I'm sorry, I do need to rephrase this question. By the way, all APs are weighted, so I do need to rephrase this question. So this is going to be taking honors courses that are not weighted. So I want to make sure I don't confuse you guys. All AP classes are weighted. So that was a typo. So if you're taking honors course, I would say college will look at the fact that you've taken these honors courses on the transcript, visually look at it. And I mean, I've been looking at transcripts for the last 17 years. So I can just in one peek, I already know the load really quickly. Within seconds, I'll know. And I will definitely pick up on the fact whether the students have taken honors classes or not, even if it's not weighted. So I think it does give a lot of admissions officers more confidence that you are consistently able to handle the tougher classes offered at your school. What is the ideal number of AP and honors classes that you should be taking at Mission San Jose? And this is a question that I get very often as well. And this one really depends on who you are. Depends on your profile, depends on how well you've done in the previous years, depends on what your goals are, what college you want to get into. So this is another thing where, you should really get the counsel of a very seasoned counselor telling you what is a good number. And I do have some thing that I want to show you after this that will give you some idea on how many classes you should take. With the discontinuation of subject tests, SAT, ACTs going test blind and optional. And also remember last year, if you're junior right now, sophomore class last year, second semester, you guys all got credit received, which means you only got 1 semester grade last year instead of 2 semesters. So in total, they're only going to look at 3 semesters. So your GPA will matter that much more. your B will be factored into your cumulative GPA and have more of an impact. Your A's will have more of an impact. Does that make sense? And also, if you've taken extra classes, especially weighted classes, and if you got an A's and get a 5.0, that will affect your overall GPA that much more. So I think that is something that you should really be paying attention to, that GPA and your load will be even more, will become increasingly more important as we go forward. So this is the chart that I wanted to show you guys when I mentioned how many really weighted classes you should take. And this is an awesome, you can actually probably Google this one, and every high school, I believe in California, you can type it up and find out how many students actually got into the UCs like for the last few years. And you will also know like what their average GPA was. Not only just like how many students actually got in and how many people are attending, you will see what their GPA was. So for instance, people that got into UC Berkeley, LA, they got a GPA of 4.29 between their 10th and 11th grade grades. So you can kind of do the math. If you got no weighted classes in sophomore year, and then how many classes do you have to take in junior year to get a cumulative 4.3 basically? I mean, you have to take, definitely in my opinion, like more than 2 weighted classes. You have to take 3 or more weighted classes in order for you to have a cumulative GPA of 4.3. Same thing for like other UCs, like even mid-tier UCs like San Diego, Davis, or Irvine, they're all above 4. So you cannot really think that you're in a good standing by taking no weighted classes and get A's and think that you have a good chance of getting into these UCs coming out of mission. You do need to load up as much as you can if you look at this data. All right, so I'm going to move on to key qualities and extracurricular activities. So that's the other component of your admissions. So people are doing a lot of different things, but I want you guys to pay attention to some components or ingredients that colleges are looking for as they read through your list of extracurricular and your description of it. And as they also read your essays, and sometimes students will write about their extracurricular activities in at least one of their essays. As they read through and get more in-depth information, they're trying to gauge what the quality of your ECAs are. So for instance, number one, the most important thing is leadership. And more selective colleges will be more likely to look for leadership qualities, because selected colleges like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, schools like the MIT, Caltech, they're looking for leaders. They're trying to groom leaders. They don't want to have followers and then brainwash them in college and then make them into leaders. They want leaders that's already born leaders and have already shown and have demonstrated that they are great leaders in many different ways. They want to bring those kids on board. What about what is the mix? What makes a student tick? What is a student passionate about? Is there a story to this student? I think a lot of students that I meet, they have multiple things going on. But when I try to look for what is the student doing, what is the essence of the student? How do I describe the student in like just a couple words? And because they're doing a whole bunch of everything at such a shallow level, I can't really even pinpoint what their passion is. So I think rather than going for this well-roundedness or being a jack of all trades and master of none, I'd rather have you be passionate about like only one or two and really exemplify your level of passion. Seeking opportunities. So in your environment, given that you come from Fremont with your parents and siblings, or being at home, being stuck with distance learning, or the fact that you have injuries and you have handicaps, mental or physical, what have you done to seize opportunities, take advantage of opportunities? Also, impact. If you're doing something, whether you're creating a club or you're, tutoring a kid or coming up with some new apps because you learn how to program and you try to get it, downloaded by a whole bunch of people, what kind of impact have you made? How big is the sphere of your influence? They'll look at that. Grit, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later on, but they want to see your steadfastness, your consistency, commitment to certain things. I think, if you look at the very famous YouTube video TED Talk with Angela Duckworth, the most common ingredient for those who are successful in all different walks of life, it's this right here, grit, unwillingness to give up. So they want to see signs of that. What about consistent growth? Meaning, like, are you the type that find something that you love and then you just stick with it and you just stay with it? Or are you the one who's growing in it and you're showing progress and advancement? Or having concern for other people? Or have you inspired other people? Do you have a genuine concern for not just for yourself, but people around you, where you don't look like a very selfish person? So this is something that you should be really thinking about. And also, this is very important. Are you positioning yourself for the future? Are you engaged in activities that reflect, demonstrate interest and impact the majors and future career plans? So if you're trying to get into, like engineering fields, like I mentioned, computer science, biochemistry, BSMD, combined medical programs, business programs, you should have some activities that have these commonalities. So I want to share this, and I know that we're kind of going over time already, so I'm going to kind of go through this really quick. There are many things that students can do at different levels. So if you look at the students on the left versus middle versus right, you'll notice that all the qualities that I mentioned earlier, they're showing more of that, right? So leadership, passion, impact, grit, excellence, commitment, connection to what you want to do. So something that you should be thinking about. I also think this is a good time for you guys to look at what the colleges are looking for, like the UC's, like personal insight questions, which shares a lot of the same essay topics as the Common App, and do your reverse engineering. Look at the colleges, their insight questions, try to answer some of these questions by outlining them with your own profile and story. And if you feel like you're lacking with ingredients, with the substance, then those are the areas that's showing your weakness. And those are things that you really should be looking into right now before it's too late. So how should you prepare for ECAs for college? So because, COVID has put a lot of stops to activities, you should really find creative ways to be active instead of saying, well, everything got canceled. I think that you, instead of just giving up on the idea because it's no longer there, find other ways. If there's a roadblock, you find your way around the roadblock. You don't turn back and go back home. Also, utilize the summer. There's a lot of things that you can do, whether, volunteering, summer school, summer programs, internships. There's a lot of things you can do. And sometimes these internships and summer programs connect you, or volunteering connect you, these outside letters of recommendation for your colleges. If the quantity is down, then it's understandable that quality and direction will be more important. So I want you guys to think, okay, because some of these things are out of the equation because of COVID, I want to really put more of my time and effort into these activities to make it a quality activity. So I think that's a good strategy to have. I'm going to move on here. So this is the academic calendar. So this is for you guys who are juniors. This is you in the red arrow. So we're in the middle of February. We know that there's SATs offered in March, and actually there's one in April too, May and June throughout the school year, also after the summer. So for juniors, if you haven't taken the SATs, and if you plan on applying to schools that will look at SATs or ACTs as an optional score, I would try to tackle that this spring or at the latest late summer and the fall, and try to look for some opportunities this summer by looking into those things right now. And you guys can utilize some of our program to help you acquire some of these opportunities in the summer later on. Okay. So some of the students have been complaining about the challenges of online learning, saying that, we're not learning enough. Teachers are not teaching us well. Teachers don't seem prepared. Curriculum is not well organized. Test questions are not from the lecture materials, and online is not for me. So this is a very pessimistic way of looking at your situation. But if you think about it, what about your teachers? Your teachers are thinking about you guys the same way. Students are not motivated. Students are not coming prepared. Students aren't doing their work. Students are very disorganized. Cheating and plagiarism rampant. Students and parents are all often complaining. So they're not in a like a easy peasy situation either. So what you need to do is make the best of your situation. And if you plan on getting like a recommendation letter from your teachers, you looking at, showing up to class, acting like you're not interested, or like having another like YouTube video playing in the background or playing games, and just really being unengaged in class, and expect them to write you a great rec letter, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. So I think every class you should make your best, put your best foot forward, give it your all, have empathy for teachers. It's not easy for teachers to teach classes online, and be the best version of yourself for every class, so you can get the most out of your situation. So when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Don't be a victim. I'm going to kind of skip through some of these things. So as you can see, I have a lot of great information for students, and I have a lot of great quotes, and some of these things I use to motivate my students when I counsel them. So here's an example of a student, and this was already made by my colleague Henry, but I kind of changed out some of the answers, some of the profile here, similar to the student from like Mission San Jose. So let's look at a student from the sample number 1, where you look at the GPA. They're getting 3.97 unweighted GPA, 4.33 weighted GPA. So that's pretty good. Looks like somebody who would be like UC Berkeley, LA. You guys saw that, right? And some other private schools. SAT scores in the 1500s. Great. ACT is near perfect. Okay, subject test, math level 2, chemistry, physics. Obviously, this is a student from previous years because they're no longer going to be offering these tests. But this person got 2 perfect scores on the, math and science. And physics is almost perfect there. And then AP exams, 5 in BC physics, 4 in chemistry. CSA is 4. So that could have been a little bit better, but CSP, that was a little bit low, probably a maybe self-study subject. US history, not as well. Chinese got a 5, so it must be a Chinese student. Robotics club, captain. By the way, this is not a real student, so don't be like, oh, I know this person. Don't say that at home. Amy for AMC math competition, tutoring, wisdom camp. So you guys know, like, this is like a typical, a profile of a Chinese student, or I can make a student who's like a Indian student or a Korean student. A cross-country varsity. Again, this is not a real student, so don't go up to a varsity or JV captain from last year saying, is this you? Newspaper copy editor, like Smoke Signal. Summer research internship. And ended up getting 2 teachers' Rex letter and 1 outside from professor, and is going for computer science. A student like this could get rejected by selected colleges because it's just really competitive, because they're also going for a very competitive major, but they will also gain admission to some of the great colleges. I'll give you examples like it could be like Johns Hopkins, or it could be Carnegie Mellon, it could be USC. Students like this with this type of background could do that. But think about what's going to happen for UCs. If UCs are going to look at the same student, now they're taking out the whole SAT and subject test. So we're looking at less number of information. So right there and then you have to realize, okay, then your AP scores, it matters more, right? Of course it matters more because there's less information for them to look at. Like if you're going for computer science, yes, I think it would be really nice for you to have 5s in CSA and CSP. Okay. Glad that you got a 5 in physics. Chemistry 4 is not going to be it's not going to be the game, it's not going to be the killer, but especially CSA, CSP, they will wonder, why is the person who's trying to be a computer science major getting a 3 in CSP? So think about that. So, which also means your GPA will be looked at with more scrutiny. Your extracurricular will be looked at with more scrutiny. So by the way, letters of rec, they're now looking at letters of rec for UCs. So I'm gonna have to take this one out. But UC Berkeley, for the last couple of years, they did ask some of the students to provide rec letters, especially if you're borderline. Okay, so it wasn't like the worst thing if UC Berkeley said, "Hey, can you give us your rec letter?" That means they didn't reject you yet. They're thinking about, they're pondering the possibility of whether they should accept you or not. So they just want more information. So you have to submit rec letter for UC Berkeley only. So, and then let's look at another student for CSU where they don't look at your extracurricular at all, right? So they're looking at even less information. They look at your GPA and then your AP test score. That's it. And they only know like what school, what major you're applying to. So like San Jose State, Cal Poly, schools like this. But I also get students like this too, very, very often. Student is going for computer science, like I would say 65, 70% of the students out there at Mission. They have a GPA that's not bad, but it's not stellar either. 3.78 unweighted, 3.97. So it's like, yeah, like I almost got 4.0, but that's weighted GPA. And if you look at the classes, they didn't take physics, they didn't take chemistry, they didn't take Calc PC, which is okay, but got a 3 in Calc AB, took a bio AP test and got a 3, ouch. Psychology 4, Chinese 5. It's kind of non-relevant to computer science. Even the activities, it's like, how does this relate to computer science? Tutoring, wisdom camp, country, food bank, animal shelter, library, interact club. I mean, these are not bad activities, but if you look at a student like this, coming from a selective college standpoint, you're going to look at a student like this and say, you know what? No, not really. It's not going to be the ideal student for us. You can see that right off the bat, right? So hopefully this will give you some sort of insight, some level of insight on what really you should be doing to best prepare yourself for certain type of colleges and majors. Now, how can Elite help? I want to kind of get through this really quickly. So we offer AP exam prep classes, and we're starting that in February and March. So take a look at our offering on our website. We offer weekly practice tests with the AP style questions, with the FRQs. We have live lectures. It's not pre-recorded, where you can ask questions live. And those are very small classes, usually 12 or smaller. And we have hundreds of rigorous AP online practice problems instead of the art curriculum. And we have classes for pretty much all the subjects, except arts, AP art, and languages. So please look at some of our offering for AP prep. We are also starting our AP psychology 12-week intensive class here. So it's 100% for credit, which means it will count towards your college GPA. Even if you're Fremont Unified or Mission San Jose say, well, we're not going to transfer your grades over to our transcript, it doesn't make a difference because you get to have your own transcript directly from the Elite Open School, and we will have you send these transcripts directly to the colleges, and colleges will do an overall cumulative GPA calculation that includes the grades from AP Psychology or other AP classes you've taken for credit. So this is an opportunity for you guys to boost your GPA. And our programs also come with, like AP test prep, not just to help you get an A in the AP class for credit, but also help you prepare for the AP test. I believe Elite San Jose is administering the AP Psychology test at their location as well. Okay. We have the Elite Blended Learning. So it's basically like the AP class, except we're doing a little bit more, one step further, which is we provide a TAC teacher to help you stay on track. We make sure that you're doing the work, that we provide accountability to make sure you're going to get your A's, and that you are on course to not just get an A, but also to get a good grade, a good score on your test. And right now, 92% of our students are getting A's. I hope it was like 99%, but I don't even know why those 8% of students didn't get A's, but because we do provide so much accountability. But a majority of our students, with the help of our TAC teachers and our structure of our program, will be able to get an accredited, WASC accredited class and get an A in the AP class. Okay. So look into that on our website. We're also offering dual credit classes, which is ideal for students who wanted same GPA boost an AP class would bring without having to take the AP exam. So some people want that. 2 A's for one semester works. So which means if you're taking our dual credit class for a semester, which is like a couple months, you're actually, by the time you finish in 2 months, you're actually getting 2 semesters worth of credit. So that's a good way to, again, boost your GPA. And also we're offering some classes, college level classes that will be more in line with what you want to do for major and career. So like business classes, communication classes, marketing classes, classes like that, or some other programming classes not offered at your school for CS. This is what we're also offering as well. And this is what keeps me quite busy. And I'm very, very proud of this program. And we're offering a program called Elite College Solutions, where you have an expert such as myself, yours truly. We're doing a comprehensive college counseling with everything you can know to create a winning master plan, especially as a college admissions landscape has changed so much. So we're going to talk about all the stuff we talked about, from GPA, course rigor, scores, AP tests, extracurricular, awards and honors, rec letters, and college planning. And we're going to do all these things, including we're going to do some personality career assessment tests. We'll give you tips on how to acquire summer internships and programs. Any questions you may have about college planning, I would really prefer to meet with students earlier than later. If I meet with students, let's just say in junior year and it's already second semester, yes, I can help them. I really can, but I will be limited on what I can help them because the direction that I'm going to give them, they can only do so much because they're already almost done with the whole junior year, right? So if I can meet with some of you guys at an earlier stage, as early as even 8th grade or even 7th grade, I can really map out a much better plan for you so that you will have some time to dabble in different things, be exposed to certain things. So you're not going to be in a bad situation. You can be in a better situation to succeed. So hopefully you guys look into our what we call ECS. So contact our branch to schedule a free diagnostic test, and we're also offering 30-minute free initial consultation. So I'm sure you guys can get that information there. Okay, so I'm gonna go straight into FAQs. So there's a lot of people that already posted this, and then I'm looking at does MSU allow students to take Chinese AP if students take classes outside of school? That one, I am not 100%. You might have to talk to your counselor about that. My guess would be no, but then they might make an exception because you can usually do foreign language outside of school, which has been a common thing over the years. So you might have to confirm that with the, you might need to confirm that with your counselors. Okay. How can we get access to this recording? So I believe we are recording this and we will post this. I will give Jonathan a link to this video so you guys can watch it later on. Do you think circumstances will return to normal after COVID is over? SAT subject and SAT, ACT being required. I think I kind of answered this one. Do I think it will return to normal? No. Would it be some semblance of normalcy? I hope so. In terms of the subject test, that's never going to come back. That's goodbye. Okay, sayonara, tout à l'heure. Okay, adios amigo. Okay, SAT, ACT, is it going to be required by the UCs? I think we already know from the most recent region meeting that they're not going to incorporate that anymore. They might do the SPAC test. But as far as the other private schools, it would not surprise me if some of the private schools will say, oh, SAT is required, back to being required, especially when every test is being administered without any mishap due to COVID. But there's also a chance that they might just keep it optional. I can't really know for sure. But I would say it's never going to be the same again, unfortunately. How important is the personal statement? When should I start working on the college apps? So that's a really great question that you have. So personal statement is very important because it tells you your story, because you do not want to just be evaluated just on numbers and letters. And colleges will look at your description of extracurricular activities as well as your personal statements to get the in-depth feel of where you come from, who you're really like, what makes you tick, what you're passionate about, what your struggles are, how you overcame it, all that stuff. So you should really do your best to put your heart and soul into the personal statement to make an impact in your application. And you can start brainstorming, like I mentioned earlier, as early as now, right? So you can do a reverse engineering and see where you're lacking and where you're weak or where your strengths are even. But at the same time, if you're going to write a essay based on what you will eventually be doing this summer, I don't think you can write a essay about that until you actually experience it. So some essays will have to be put on hold until the end of the summer after you finish your internship or volunteering or what have you. But I think definitely you can get the ball rolling even right now. Will accredited summer school classes I take during the summer or school year count towards college GPA? Yes. I think I've already explained this. It does absolutely count as long as they're accredited. So hopefully you guys already know the answer to that question. How useful are community college online courses? It's kind of a similar question. So it can be very useful as long as you're taking classes that actually make sense with your profile. So if you're taking, for instance, taking a sign language class at Ohlone because you want to help students with hearing impairment, because you want to be able to communicate with them as you volunteer with the Special Olympics or something, then it does make sense. Or you're taking some sort of a programming class not offered at admission, but you're taking it Ohlone, it does make sense. Or because you got gypped with some of the classes because they ran out of space, so you end up taking classes at Ohlone or Mission or De Anza, what have you. Yeah, I think it can show colleges that you've made some you were assertive, you made some action to get around your situation and you made an effort, and you showing that assertiveness, I think it will be seen as a positive sign from colleges. Will taking a lot of AP exams help for college admissions? Taking a lot. Okay, so I don't know what you mean by a lot. I mean, I told you there's a girl who took 18 AP tests by junior year. So is that a lot? Or taking 3 might be a lot for you? So it really depends on the student and depends on what college you're applying for and depends on which exams as well. So I think it's really depends on the student and the individual student situation. But usually more the merrier. But taking a lot of tests and getting 2s and 3s and 1s is not going to help you. How important are grades compared to ECA, extracurricular activities? So they're all important, but there are a lot of colleges that put all the premium on the grades first. It's the what I call first base of the baseball diamond. So, for instance, I played a round of golf with I do play golf for fun with the Stanford gymnastics coaches, and they told me that they would find the nationally top ranked gymnast, but if they have a less than unweighted GPA, not weighted, less than 3.8, they can't bring them on board. Even if their SAT score at the time was 1400, below 1400, they can't recruit them. They could be 3.78 and 1370. They can recruit the students because they have minimum requirements. So I would say grades are very important, but at the same time, remember, it's holistic. You can make up for the lacking area. If you're lacking a little bit with the load factor, or you have some small, tiny blemish in your grades, but then you have exemplary extracurricular, then you can make it up holistically. But with that said, if you're applying to like Stanford or Harvard, or some Princeton or MIT, you really can't have too many blemishes. I really do think that you need to be a straight A student, taking like hardest classes you can take, relevant courses too, and you should have some crazy, amazing, mind-blowing extracurricular. And even then, you could get rejected. So I think they're all important to answer your question. If I did very few extracurricular, commit to a lot of them, colleges be able to see that. So, well, number one, I think you meant to say, yeah, they can see it because you're putting it on your application, but I think you meant to say, is it better to do few, be pointy, and do really at a high level, or to do a lot and be shallow? So I think I answered this already. So I would say between the two, yeah, doing a few at a higher level with quality will mean more for colleges, and they can definitely be able to see it because you're going to talk about it. How is credit received? I think most of you guys got CR on your transcript last year, second semester. And is that calculated into the college GPA? No, it's not. It's just going to be seen as CR. That's the reason why I said every class you're taking currently right now, it's going to make more impact in your cumulative GPA, because you're looking at 3 semesters for UCs, CSUs, including Stanford. They only look at sophomore and junior year. And any classes you've taken after 9th grade, after 10th grade, after 11th grade, the summer school classes, or if you decide to take classes during the school year that's accredited, like online classes through us or elsewhere, that would be counted towards your cumulative GPA as well. What is Minerva? So actually, I'm going to be transparent. I'm the one who asked this question because I want you guys to know about this. And what's going on with Minerva and Elite. So if you guys do a little bit of Google search, you'll know that there was a big news about us partnering up with a college called Minerva. It's a innovative college that's hasn't been around the longest, but it's founded from San Francisco. They're very, very innovative, and they're very selective. What they do is really completely new. And they got, I think some of the places are saying it's the most innovative college in the last decade. And we're partnered with them. So what that means is we're going to be offering a special kind of like a combination of high school and college program where you can get your high school degree out of the way, as well as some college years of units out of the way with our partnership program. And it will be very selective, and it's only going to be recommended for very high achieving, very motivated students, because it's going to be quite a bit of stuff that you need to accomplish. But it also provides flexibility to do other stuff, like especially if you have a lot of stuff going on, whether you're a figure skater, you're a golfer, or you got some other unique things projects that you're working on, and you don't want to, you think that some of the times you spend at a traditional conventional school like Mission San Jose is a waste of time. No offense to any teachers out there or admin people out there. So there's ways for you to, take classes through Minerva Elite program and then go the different route and thinking outside the box. And we plan on offering this innovative program sometime this fall, 2021 fall. So be on the lookout for that as well. I'm going to just wrap it up here. And let's see. should I retake the SATs even if I reach higher than 1500? Maybe you should, I don't know who you are, but I'm going to just tell you, yes, you're good. You don't take it again. But at the same time, if you are really good at math and you got 700 in math, then maybe you should. So it really depends. I'm going to wrap it up here. Just want to thank you, all of you guys. Sorry that I went way above an hour. I appreciate you guys sticking around. I know that you guys have a lot of great things to do on a Friday night, but I appreciate you coming here, joining us and listening to the end. We are here for you. So, check out our website. We're here and we want to help you. So please take advantage of our services. We have people that have nothing but wanting to help you guys out. So I hope to meet with you one day and be able to be part of your college planning and your journey there. Okay.
All right, so that appears to be it for the seminar. I wanted to thank Walter, Penny, Jesse, the whole elite team for working with us on this. For those of you who are still here, personally, I really recommend Elite's courses because I took them and I found them to be extremely useful. So I definitely encourage you guys to look into them. But other than that, thank you to everyone else for coming. And I should get the link for this recording. So yeah, thank you.
All right.